Rain fell in relentless sheets that night, pounding on the worn rooftops of a small town in Virginia. Inside her thin coat, Emily clutched her tiny daughter, Lily, close to her chest, shivering not only from the cold but from a fear that had gripped her heart for days. The streets were empty, abandoned to the storm, and each flash of lightning illuminated the despair etched on her face. She had no home, no family to turn to, and no plan beyond the desperate hope that maybe, just maybe, someone out there might help. Her hands trembled as she approached a modest house at the end of the street, its warm lights spilling onto the wet pavement. It felt like fate, but she had no idea that behind that ordinary door, a miracle awaited that would change her life forever. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of hope, please take a moment to like this video, share it, and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world and helps spread stories that touch hearts. Emily hesitated for a moment, staring at the door. Her heart hammered. She was used to rejection, to turning away from closed doors, to the cold emptiness of streets and shelters that were already full. Lily, only a few months old, stirred in her arms, her tiny fingers curling around Emily's thumb. Emily whispered soothing words she barely believed herself. "It's going to be okay, baby. We'll find someone kind." With a deep breath she knocked. The sound of her knuckles against the wood seemed deafening in the quiet night. She knocked again, and then she waited, holding her breath as if the very act of hoping might make the world collapse around her. Footsteps came from inside, hesitant and slow. The door opened just enough to reveal an older woman with gentle eyes that reflected both surprise and curiosity. "Can I help you?" the woman asked. Her voice was soft, comforting yet guarded, the kind that had been through its own share of heartbreak. Emily's words caught in her throat. She swallowed hard and forced herself to speak. I don't have anywhere to go, please. My daughter and we just need a place to stay, even for a night." Her voice cracked, tears threatening to spill. The baby stirred again, and Emily's desperation became almost tangible in the stormy night air. The woman looked down at Lily, who blinked up at her with innocent curiosity. In that instant, something shifted. Maybe it was the vulnerability, maybe it was the timing, but the woman's stern expression softened. She opened the door wider. "Come in," she said. And in that simple phrase, Emily felt a glimmer of hope she hadn't felt in weeks. Emily stepped inside, bringing with her the chill of the storm and the weight of uncertainty. The home smelled of warm bread and lavender, a comfort Emily hadn't experienced in what felt like a lifetime. She noticed photographs on the walls of a smiling family, children growing older in frozen moments of joy. Her heart ached with longing, memories of her own family lost in a tangled past. She had been alone for so long, the world closing in around her, that she had almost forgotten what safety felt like. The woman, whose name Emily would soon learn was Margaret, guided her to the kitchen. "You can rest here, and I'll make some tea," Margaret said. Emily sank into the worn chair, cradling Lily, feeling the warmth of the home seep into her bones. For the first time in weeks, she allowed herself to breathe without fear, to imagine a future that might be just a little brighter. As the night wore on, Emily told Margaret bits and pieces of her story, how she had lost her job, how her apartment had been taken away, and how her family had abandoned her after her divorce. She spoke sparingly, ashamed of the fragility she could not hide, yet Margaret listened with an attentiveness that made Emily feel seen for the first time in a long while. And when Lily fussed, Margaret gently held her, humming a lullaby Emily had never heard before. Yet that soothed her daughter like magic. Days turned into weeks, and Emily began to feel a fragile thread of hope weaving itself into her life. Margaret, it turned out, was a retired nurse who had spent her life caring for others, and her home had always been a place where those in need could find refuge. She never asked for much, only respect and honesty, and Emily gave both willingly. Together they navigated the challenges of everyday life, finding work for Emily, getting Lily the medical care she needed, and slowly rebuilding a life that had been broken. Emily's mornings began with sunlight spilling through the windows, the laughter of Lily echoing through the home. She learned to cook again, to dream again, to plan for a future that wasn't defined by fear. And all the while, Margaret shared wisdom, stories of resilience, and lessons learned through a life of kindness. Emily realized that this stranger, this woman she had knocked on in desperation, was teaching her more about love and compassion than she had ever known. But life, of course, does not simply hand out miracles without tests. One day, as Emily was leaving for work, she received a call that brought her to her knees. Lily's father, whom Emily had not seen in years, wanted custody. Suddenly, everything they had worked for felt fragile, like sand slipping through fingers. The fear returned, darker and sharper than before. Emily felt the familiar panic rising in her chest. How could she protect her child when the world seemed so determined to pull them apart? Margaret, sensing Emily's despair, took her hands in hers. "You've done everything right, Emily. You love her. You provide for her. You fight for her. That's what matters. And sometimes, miracles happen when we least expect them." Those words, though simple, carried a weight that anchored Emily in the storm of uncertainty. She knew she had to fight, not just for herself, but for the tiny life she held in her arms, for the love that had been restored in her heart. The legal battle was long and exhausting, stretching over months. Emily faced moments of doubt so intense she could barely see beyond the next day. But through it all, she had Margaret, and she had the unwavering presence of her baby girl, whose smiles reminded her that every sleepless night, every moment of fear, was worth it. And then, one crisp morning, a letter arrived. Emily opened it with trembling hands. She had won. Custody of Lily was officially hers. The weight lifted from her shoulders, leaving her breathless with relief and gratitude. Life after that was not perfect, but it was real. Emily found a job at a local clinic, helping mothers and children who reminded her so much of herself. Margaret continued to be a guiding light, a quiet presence in the background, celebrating every small victory. And Lily thrived, surrounded by love that was hard-won but steadfast. Emily often looked at her daughter, brushing back her hair, and whispered, "You are my miracle, baby." And we found ours, together. The story of Emily and Lily reminds us that sometimes the most profound miracles arrive not with fanfare or warning, but quietly, at the exact moment when despair feels unbearable. It reminds us that kindness from a stranger can change lives, that second chances are real, and that the human heart is capable of incredible resilience. If this story touched your heart, if you feel a spark of hope or a desire to embrace kindness, please take a moment to like, comment, and share this video. Let the world know that miracles still happen, often when we need them most. And before you go, I have a small request. Please leave a comment about someone who has been a light in your life, someone who changed everything just by being kind. Emily's journey, once defined by fear and uncertainty, now shone with possibility. She had knocked on a stranger's door with nothing but hope and a baby in her arms, not knowing that the woman who answered would become her family, her mentor, her guardian angel. In the rain, in the storm, in the darkest moments, a miracle had been waiting, patiently, ready to change everything. And in that transformation, Emily learned a truth she would carry forever. No matter how impossible life may seem, miracles are real, and love, unexpected, fierce and unwavering, can find us when we are ready to believe.